Yep, we're doing this. I'm reading Crush because you all told me to. So earlier this year, assuming I get this out in 2020, I posted a video reading Crave, so you don't have to. If you don't know, Crave is a book about a girl named Grace who, after her parents dies, moves to Alaska where her uncle is the headmaster of a boarding school. What she doesn't know is that it's a boarding school for supernatural creatures like vampires, dragons, witches, etc, etc. And it was a ride, to say the least. I'll leave that video linked down below if you haven't seen it. I did not expect such a great response, but I'm very happy that you guys enjoyed it so much because I really did enjoy making it. It's one of my most viewed videos of the year. A lot of you have said you found my channel from that video. And despite the title of me reading it so you don't have to, many of you watched either all of the video or parts of the video and said, I am going to go read the Crave. All publicity is good publicity. And in response, a lot of you, whether you read the book or not, after hearing of the sequel's release, I think it came out in September, asked me to read the sequel and do another video. And I'm here to please. I don't know how far I am into Crush, to be honest. I know it's a big ass, like almost 700-page book. I'm on page 432 of 1,818 in the ebook. So, you know, put the math, the percentage. Also a note, this video is gonna just have spoilers because I think anyone who's here watching it is either here because they read Crush and they want to know how I felt about it, or they watched my original video and they want to see my reaction to the sequel and therefore don't really care about spoilers. We're just here for the laughs. Also, a side note, I definitely made fun of Crave in my first video and I'm definitely gonna make fun of Crush in this video. But if you genuinely love it, I love that for you. I'm not like hating on your own taste or anything because book opinions are subjective. Okay, with all those side notes out of the way, let's talk about Crush. Gonna be honest to you, I'm not liking it as much as the first one so far. Again, I'm not that far into it. But the beginning of this book has just been Grace dealing with memory loss, and that's one of my least favorite tropes. If you need a refresher, Crave ended with this one girl trying to use Grace as a human sacrifice to bring back her dead boyfriend, who is also Grace's boyfriend's brother, who tried to kill him because he wants to be like king of the vampires because his brother like will be, something like that. Anyway, they tried to sacrifice her to bring him back. Obviously they didn't sacrifice her because like she would be dead. But somehow Hudson, the evil brother, still did return at the very end of the book. He tries to kill Jackson, his brother, aka Grace's hot vampire boyfriend, and the only reason I am here. And before he can strike him with a sword, Grace steps in front of him and we find out that she's not a human. She's a gargoyle. I'm still not over it. So at the start of this book, Grace just kind of comes back to life, but like doesn't realize she had been a gargoyle, doesn't realize she had been gone for 4 months. And she's dealing with this memory loss and she's having these episodes where she blacks out and she doesn't know what she's doing during them. I was like, pretty obvious this has to have something to do with the brother, and we just learned it does. And that's been the main focus of what I've read so far. And like, if you remember, my biggest attraction to this book is, like I said, Jackson, the boyfriend, because something about a broody hot vampire prince, and when they have scenes together, it's nice. But when it's just Grace on her own, I kind of get annoyed because her internal monologue is just not interesting. And the way this book is written is just, when I say this, I don't mean to diss fan fiction. I am a fan fiction writer myself. I think fan fiction can be incredible, but it can also be trash. And some of this book kind of feels like fan fiction, and I will get more into that. I have like, I take notes on anything I want to bring up with y'all or just say. So let's get into my notes because that'll come up. My first note is this line from the very beginning of the book. It says, "You'd think I have gotten used to the staring by now. It kind of comes with the territory when you're a vampire prince's girlfriend." And I'm just like, that should be me. Another just incredible thing about Crave and now Crush is that each chapter has a title, and the titles are always absolutely ridiculous. First one that I've highlighted, just for example, is Gargoyles Are the New Black. Oh my god. There's also these moments where Grace will like, I don't want to say she's breaking the fourth wall, but it's kind of like, huh? Like here she says, "I swear, if I were reading this story, I'd say the plot twists were getting ridiculous. but I'm not reading it. I'm living it, and that is so much worse. Like, okay, we are reading. I don't like it. Then Jackson and Grace's uncle are kind of like talking about how they should move forward, and Grace is kind of like, hello, I'm right here, which, yes, of course, stick up for yourself, girl. But this line just, it hurt me physically to read. I may not be a vampire or a warlock, but that doesn't mean I'm just going to lie down and let the men folk make decisions about my life for me. Men folk, I hate it. I hate it. Ugh. Then her boyfriend punches someone because he was joking about her riding his dragon. Because he's a dragon, and like, so he refers to his dragon self as his dragon, but like, you know, the innuendo is there, and so he punches him, and I'm like, oh, classic YA toxic masculinity at its finest, but also like, I'm still And then Jackson gets her a new phone because she lost hers, and he's like rich as shit, and she's like, I don't know if you should like buy me stuff. And like, I never understood, like, if my boyfriend is rich as hell, yes bitch, buy me the world. But Grace says, you already got me a welcome home present. You I hate it. Again, with like breaking the fourth wall-ish kind of thing. I've read enough urban fantasy and YA novels to understand the mating bond is the best thing that can happen between two people. Also, this chapter literally got the amount of times I had to read the word mate. Sarah J Maas, you are getting a run for your money, sis. And here's what I mean when I'm talking about how this reads like fan fiction, like this paragraph in particular. I roll off the bed, trying to make as little noise as possible, then grab a hoodie from my closet. The castle can be cold and drafty at night. Next, I slip on my favorite pair of daisy patterned Vans and tiptoe to the door as quietly as I possibly can. Is that not like the kind of fan fiction that like we all make fun of? Like, I brushed my straight brown hair and put on my like there's so much detail that we just like don't need in this book. I think I mentioned this during Crave as well, is like Grace's inner monologue is just so much, and she'll like go over things a million times, and I'm like, we get it. Where's the editing? And this line just made me go, I don't like it. Sue me that I don't feel bad if someone attacked me in the tunnels and I fought back. I have rights. Okay, I have rights. And then here, I'm just gonna read these couple of paragraphs to you, because this is what, again, I mean by like saying the same thing over and over again, kind of. And this isn't even with Grace's inner monologue, which is worse. This is like Jackson speaking at the beginning. When we were kids, he used to do that. He has to speak directly to the person, but he can persuade anyone to do anything for him with merely his voice. Do what? I ask as razor-sharp talons of fear rake through me. What did Hudson do, Jackson? Jackson finally manages to pull the haunted gaze from the video, use his power of persuasion to get people to do whatever he wanted. Did the other paragraph not already explain this? Where was the editor? Where? And this is the last note that I have so far. They're going to see the Bloodletter, which is this ancient vampire, the most powerful, who also happened to raise Jackson, because I honestly can't remember. I need a little refresher on Jackson's backstory and like how old he is and all that shit, because I don't remember, but we have not gotten like a nice little update, a refresher, which is weird because we've gotten everything else in this, but like we have so many unnecessary things. But then I'm sitting here like, but why aren't you including this thing that I actually need? But basically, this lady lives way out in the Alaskan wilderness in an ice cave. Elsa is shaking, and so Jackson is like running with his vampire speed to get them there, but they call it like fading. So like he just like fades because it's so fast. Sure. But what had me, you know, take a little note here. Grace says, so what exactly do I need to do? And he says, I pick you up in my arms and then you hang on tight.
You better hold on tight, spider monkey.
Like, is it not the same? Is it not that he is a vampire? He's telling her to hang on tight. We're just missing the spider monkey. All right, well, that's what I have so far. I'm gonna keep reading now that Grace knows that Hudson is the reason she's having these blackout moments and he's like taking over her body. We're trying to figure out how to get him out. I am ready for this part of the book to be over with so we can get into more of the goods, especially because like her and Jackson haven't been like kissing or anything, which is like my favorite part, because like I said, I want a vampire boyfriend, but they haven't been kissing because Hudson is in her head like secretly being like, ew, we don't want to kiss him, which like, right, you don't want to kiss your brother, but like I would like to see the kissing. So this boy, this dead vampire whatever, needs to get out because he's ruining my experience.
Much later.
Y'all, absolute bitches. Y'all told me to read this book. Y'all requested that I read this book. And so of course I delivered. Here to please. This book was so bad. This book was so bad. I don't even know how long it's been since I filmed my first update. I read Crave in like 2 days. Crave was bad, but it was fun. It was funny. It had some moments that had me feeling something. This book was just boring and bad and not good, and I don't know how it got past so many people's eyes to be published. Is that harsh? Maybe, but this book was that bad. This felt like I was reading a first draft. I can't even say anymore that this book felt like fan fiction, because that would be an insult to fanfic writers everywhere. I don't even want to talk about it. It was just not good. I think a lot of the problems that I talked about already were problems that continued throughout the entirety. Literally being in Grace's head, it was horrible. The same kind of information is like repeated over and over. There's just too much inner monologue. Literally this book could have been like 300 pages instead of 700, because so much was unnecessary. And I think I told you that I didn't Crave. One of the things that like kept me going was Grace and Jackson's relationship. The way he was this broody, dark vampire prince, and like I just loved every moment when they were on the page together. We don't really get those moments because for like the entire book she has his damn brother in her head. And then the things that happen at the end of this, oh my god. First of all, this book ends in Hudson's POV, as if I care. I feel like this whole book was trying to get me to care about Hudson. I don't. Hudson being Jackson's brother. I don't know if I made that clear. And throughout the book, it's constantly being referenced how Grace doesn't remember her time with Hudson because she spends like 3 months, 4 months as a gargoyle. She doesn't have her memories, nor does she regain them at any point in this book. So annoying. And it's very clear that Hudson likes Grace throughout this book. Like, not just likes, like it's very clear that he's in love with her, but Grace is just like not picking up on it because she's one of the dumbest characters that I've ever read. And like I absolutely saw the end coming, especially at some point in the book they're talking about mates and they're like, some people can even have 2 mates. I'm like, oh great, so Hudson and Grace are mates too. Great. And that's literally how the book ends. Additionally, before we find out this information, Grace and Jackson's mating bond is broken. How convenient. Literally, if this series is pushing Grace and Hudson now instead of Jackson and instead of Jackson and Grace, sign me out. I don't want it. I don't care. I hate when people build a perfectly good romance in book 1 and then in book 2 they're like, let's just do something else. No. Sarah J. Maas. It was so annoying. Everything that happened in this book was just unrealistic. The magic system in this book, I don't understand it. It literally feels like we're making things up as we go along and there's no limits, which just makes everything so, like, where's the stakes? They aren't here. The villains in this book are supposed to be like, you know, these big bad, like, I don't care about them. They're not scary. They're like caricatures. Like, it's not it. Where I left off from my last clip, I was like getting to this point where Grace and Jackson were going to like the baddest vampire in the world apparently, but when they actually get there she's like not at all like any, like not even a villain, not even scary, not even like anything. She says things like Hudson's power is, he's the scariest thing in this world. I'm just like, wait, I thought that was supposed to be you. And then the actual villains are like Jackson's parents. They're like the biggest villains of this series, but again, they're just really dumb to me. Like, I don't oh my god, this book was so bad. I was sitting here like, I'm probably gonna read the next 2, but you know what? I'm really not sure, because that was like torturous. The more I talk about it, the more pissed I get. What made my Crave video was so good was that I'd come on with updates and I'd be laughing, I'd be like, this is so ridiculous, but it was bad, but it was fun. And this, I had no fun. No fun was had. I don't even know what else to say about it. Like, it was too long. The writing was terrible. Like, the writing itself was terrible. The plot was terrible. This is a 1-star book. I would give it no stars if I could. Okay, I don't think I have anything else to say besides going through the things I bookmarked, so let's do that. So at one point, basically, Hudson has been in Grace's body, but after they see the big baddie vampire, she's able to hear him and sort of project an image of him. And so at one point he starts dancing with her and he plays I kid you not. A song by Flo Rida. I literally have. Why are you playing Flo Rida? Are the teens listening to Flo Rida still? Let me know. Grace finally learns how to transform into her gargoyle form. Gargoyle. And apparently all she has to do is think about it and hold a magical string inside of herself. Like, okay. She can also hold on to her mating bond and like send energy down it. I don't know. Also, I don't know how to picture like a gargoyle, just like, I don't know. Then there's a line that I probably read, I don't know, how many pages are there? Probably about 700 pages, so I probably read it about 600 times. I crack up, because how can I not? Because how can I not? Because how can I? I hate it. I fucking hate it here. Then they need a bloodstone. Like, they end up needing all these magical items in order to get Hudson out of Grace's head and also make it so that he doesn't have his powers anymore. And they get the bloodstone because it's being donated as the prize for this competition the school plays every year. That was probably the only like highlight of the book, was like the competition was a little cool, but then we drag it out because Grace has to do something else with it later on and it's just horrible. But the prize that's being noticed, they're like, this is the most powerful heartstone ever, or bloodstone, sorry, there's a heartstone too, because it has Hudson's, our dead son's, because Jackson's parents are there, his blood and blah blah blah. And I'm like, why would that be given away? Like, I don't. At one point it says 3 very important facts, and I was just brought back to the very superior paranormal series, Twilight.
About 3 things I was absolutely positive.
Then at some point, Jackson brings up breaking the mating bond. He's like, I asked superpower vampire lady if it's possible, because then we'll be able to get Hudson out of your head without having to do all these dangerous things. And Grace is like, no, even though they've kind of been like fighting and like, Grace has like not been enjoying anything about him this whole book, and I've been like, you're so good. Which I should have then seen coming, that it would end up being broken, even though it wasn't what they wanted. Somebody else performed the spell, because that makes sense. Someone else can break your mating bond, even though if you don't want, because I'm a gargoyle, bitch. An actual line I had to read in this book. Then of course their big bad plan to go kill this unkillable beast, which you would think you would shorten that to say beast, but no, it's unkillable beast every single time, who actually ends up just being a giant gargoyle who can't leave and is trying to be killed for its heart. That was the only other part that I liked, that the big monster was actually like soft cutie boy. If I read the next book, it will be for that character only. Basically their whole plan doesn't work. Jackson and Grace have their mating bond broken by their school nemesis, and then Grace has to go compete in this tournament thing on her own that she was supposed to be able to do with Jackson, but she can't now because he's not her mate. And she did this whole challenge thing, like she has to do it to get on the circle, which is the supernatural, I don't know, board of governance, where Jackson's parents are like king and queen because they want to take Grace and like lock her up because they killed all the gargoyles once and now there's a gargoyle back. I know I'm putting like a lot of like after explanation into this, but you really don't need to know. This book is so bad, don't read it, I swear to God. Last time I told y'all I read Crave, so you don't have to. Please save yourselves. And then we get to the last line of the book. Like I said, Jackson and Grace are like kissing because they're like, we still love each other even without our mating bond. Ooh. And Hudson says, Jackson, if you wouldn't mind, take your fucking hands off my mate. And that's the last of my thoughts on Crush. It was terrible. It was not fun. It was not good. I truly don't know why they rushed to put this book out, because Crave only came out, I think, in April, and this came out in September. There was no reason for it. You should have taken that time to craft this a little better, because it was terrible. Thank you so much for watching. I have a feeling this video will not be as well liked. I don't like it, and I'm the one making it, so sorry about that, but y'all asked for it, and Tracy Wolf, this is what she gave us. Oh my God. Okay, it's my birthday, so I'm gonna go try to have a good time now, as good as one that I can here in quarantine corona times. I'll see you guys in my next video.